In der Heimen Basimches in Wiener.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Online Smicha. Today we'll discuss halacha in this week's Parshah, Parshas Mikeitz. A lot of the discussion of the end of last week's Parshah and the beginning of this week's Parshah is all about chaloimos, about dreams. The Medrash says, the Das Kein Bali Atosis brings that Keloi Kamidas Basav Adam Midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Eibishter Hashem does not act the way, in this point, does not act like a Midas Basav Adam. By Midas Basav Adam, how it is Maka Be'izemel Umerape Beretia. If Rahman al-Latzani, he hurts somebody with a knife, and the healing comes with a band-aid, with a shmata or a cure. The refuah and the Maka are separate things. Whereas Midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Maka Be'izemel Umerape Be'izemel. The Eibishter, Rahman al-Latzan, hurts. If somebody needs Yisurim, he uses the knife to hurt, and the same knife is the refuah. Interpreted in this week's Parsha, the Das Kein Bali Atosis says that the chaloim, the dream, is what hurt Yosef, when Yosef dreamt about his brothers, and that's what caused them to be angry with him, and eventually ending up in Mitzrayim. And the dream is what saves Yosef, because how he interprets Paro's dream, and that is Maka Be'izemel Umerapa Be'izemel. The same thing has a dual effect, l'toiv or l'mutar. The concept of the dream has few halachas connected with it, but it's based on the last couple psukim of the last parsha and this parsha. The beginning of the parsha begins Vayihi Mikeitz Nasayim Yamim Uparei Choylem, and Parei is dreaming, present, Lashon Haiva. And the Oyer Chaim HaKadosh asks, it should say Vayachlem Parei Uparei Cholam, and the Oyer Chaim actually explains that it goes behemshich to the chaloimos of last week's parsha, where there's Sarah Mashkin and Sarah Eifen had their dreams. That's why it's saying, and here there's another dream. Or he gives another interpretation that this was a dream that was constant by Parei. Choylem Lashon Haiva. So let's talk about last week's parsha, the dream of Sarah Mashkin and Sarah Eifen, and you find some fundamental points about the inyan of chaloimos. So the Sarah Mashkin and Sarah Eifen have their dreams. They're all worried, upset, and they're walking around angry. And the pasuk says, in pasuk Ches, they speak to Yosef and they say, "Vayomer elav chaloim chalamnu upoiser ein oisei." We had a dream and we have no way to. We don't have a good interpretation of this dream. Vayomer aleihem Yosef. So Yosef says to them, "Haloi le'alekim pisronim." God has the interpretation. God knows how to interpret this. Sapru na li. Please tell me the dream. And the Oyer Chaim HaKadosh says on that pasuk, first of all, what does it mean, plural, pisronim? He has many interpretations, many ways to interpret it. I mean, isn't it just one way to interpret the dream? So the Oyer Chaim HaKadosh quotes the Gemara in Brachas where it says that a certain Chacham had Chav Dalid Poisrei Chaloimes Hayu B'Yerushalayim. There are 24 people who are able to interpret dreams in Yerushalayim, and they interpret the same dream 24 different ways. And Kulam Niskaimu, and all their interpretations were fulfilled. So we see that every dream could be interpreted in many ways, and if they're not contradicting each other, they all could be fulfilled. So that's why it says Lashon Rabim Pisroinim. And why did Yosef say to them, Sapru na li, please tell me the dream? So the Oyer Chaim says 2 points again, which is connected to halacha. First of all, the dream could only be interpreted and brought out l'toiv if it's spoken about in the day you had the dream. So he said, please don't delay it, don't let time pass by. Sapru na, please tell it to me now. If it's in the day the dream took place, then there is ways that you could deal with it, as we will soon mention, hatavas cholam, tainas cholam, etc. And second of all, Yosef says, please tell me the dream, because Yosef wanted to interpret the dream to be as he will say. and therefore he was sort of begging them to tell him the dream, so he should find the right words to interpret it l'toy before they go elsewhere and have it interpreted differently, and perhaps in a way of a contradiction to what he says, and then what he will say perhaps will not come out l'poyo. So we see the concept of interpreting dreams already last week's Parsha. In this week's Parsha, Parai has his famous dreams, and the Chassidish Svarim and other Svarim, they say, look at the difference, how Parai dreams, and Parai Chaylim, and what his dream is all about, and what does he do when he sees a dream, how it affects him. But eventually, it gets to Yosef. Why? So the Pasuk says that the Parai went around asking Kol Chartumei Mitzrayim, all the wise people, the one who knew all the tricks of the book, and Parai tells them the Cholim, Ve'ein Paisaraisim LeParai. Nobody interpreted the dream to Parai. So Rashi says, what do you mean? Nobody had a way. These are the Chachamim, the witchcraft, and they had no way to interpret the dream. So Rashi says, nobody spoke to Parai. Nobody in their interpretation, Parai did not feel comfortable with what they said. Ein Paisar Oisam LeParai. Paisrim hayu. They were, each one had a way how to interpret it. And this one said that you're going to have 7 daughters, and then Rahman al-Islam, you're going to bury those 7 daughters. But it didn't talk to Parai. And Sarah Mashkin came to Parai and said, my dear king, and I will tell you, there's a gentleman called Yosef who knows how to interpret dreams correctly, because exactly what he said happened with my life. So he calls from Yosef, and Parai tells Yosef, Chalaim chalamti upaiser einoisai, and I heard that you know how to interpret dreams. And Yosef says those good words again, as he mentioned last time by the Sarah Mashkin and Sarah Eifim, and he says, Elokim yana shleim Parai. It's God that will tell us what's going to be with Parai. And by the end, after Parai tells him in detail the dreams, Hu adavar ashi dibarti el Parai asher alekim oisa heras Parai. That what Hashem is going to do, He's showing you in a vision in the dream. Okay? So again, dreams, even though Shlomo HaMelech seems to say, Chaloimos l'shav yudaberu, so you shouldn't be worried about a dream, but yet there's a level of nevuah, prophecy, or vision that Hashem shares with the people having the dream about the person's future. The Gemara in Bracha says, Halon shivas yomim b'loi chaloim nikra ra. Somebody sleeps 7 nights and he doesn't remember a dream that he had, nikra ra. There's something good about having a dream. The Gemara says, Sarich kol adam levake shirachmim sheyachlem chaloimes tovos. You should daven to have good dreams. Now, what happens if the dream is not a pleasant one? So what we know is what the Gemara says, that kol hachaloimes hoilchen achar apeh. All the dreams will come out to reality the way the dream is being interpreted. I want to give you an example. It says in Svarim that if you see mess in a dream, you should go to somebody and will interpret mess to the letters tam. Tam is mess obviously is a negative thing. Tam is not a negative thing, because the dream will come out papayo based on their interpretation. In the Shulchan HaTorah from the Kamarna Rebbe, he brings the example of somebody seeing in a dream how he lost a tooth falling out, even though it seems to be a very dangerous, and it might scare a person. So right away go to a friend, and a friend will interpret it, and it means to say that you'll have parnasa easily without the grinding of the teeth, and then you'll see that the dream will be interpreted fine. So there's many examples, and the Gemara itself says how you mefater, you interpret a dream positively, and there's nothing to worry about. We find, and in this Tilas Hashem Siddur we also have it, And I was told that some of the Lubavitcher Rosh Yeshivas in France in the earlier years in Brunois would actually do this. That is Hatavas Cholim. If somebody had a bad dream and he's worrisome because of the dream, so there's two things that we know that you could do for it. First of all, Hatavas Cholim is that you go after, there's a machlokes and different opinions if you should do it right after Shachris or do it towards the evening. You go in front of 3 people and you tell them the dream, and when you tell them the dream, they say Chalom Hatava Chazasi, Chalom Hatava Chazasi, you saw a good dream, and they interpret it in a positive way. Then there is Tainus Cholim. Tainus Cholim is to fast for a dream that you're worrisome. With the Alter Rebbe in Shulchan Aruch and Hilchos Shabbos says it's such a good cure for a dream that's causing you pachad that you're allowed to do it even on Shabbos. You're allowed to fast even on Shabbos for a Tainus Cholim. However, it's only for specific chaloimus, things that we know are telling you scary messages. And the Alter Rebbe describes which one they are. So a Tainus Cholim is an exception to the rule that you're allowed to do even b'Shabbos. Cholim is also something which is in general a comparison to Golus, because as we say in the Pasuk, that when Mashiach comes, Hayinu Kilcholmin, we'll look back at the whole Golus as it was a dream. May that be b'mheira v'yameinu. Shikoyach, and please join us again next week.